Welcome to the 2021 Winter Webinar Series, The Importance of the Clean Cities Annual Report, co-hosted by Chicago Area Clean Cities, Greater Lansing Area Clean Cities, South Shore Clean Cities, and Wisconsin Clean Cities. I'm Lorrie, Lisek, Executive Director of Wisconsin Clean Cities. On behalf of all of our partners, thank you for joining us today. Each year, our coalitions collect data from stakeholders and produce a coalition report. The report reflects all the outstanding work taking place in each coalition's geographic area and can be used to promote our coalitions, communities, and states while providing opportunities for funding sustainable transportation projects. The coalitions also use the data collected from these surveys for award considerations at their events. The surveys can be completed by the coalition's members, partners, and stakeholders. Help us showcase all the activities taking place in the Lake Michigan region by telling us about your efforts to reduce petroleum consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Last year, South Shore and Wisconsin Clean Cities welcomed two excellent speakers for the importance of the Clean Cities Annual Report webinar. Speakers included Caley Johnson, Senior Transportation Market Analyst with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and David Kirschner, Project Manager for the U.S. Department of Energy. The information they provided on the importance of the Clean Cities Annual Report is still relevant, and we'd like to share it with you today. First up is Caley Johnson.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'm glad to speak with you all about the importance of the annual report and all the things that it influences. So let's start off with the most basic reason for the annual report is you've got to, in order to reduce anything, you've got to track it. And so that applies to the energy use impact, which is essentially the well-to-wheels petroleum savings. So that's the same as if you were to model it in GREET or A-Fleet, any given project reduces the well-to-wheel petroleum use, which takes into account, for example, if you're using ethanol, the diesel fuel used in the tractors to grow the corn to produce the ethanol. So it's saying for a gallon of ethanol, you reduce this much petroleum over the life of the life cycle of the fuel. So that's energy use impact, the number one thing that we track. Then there's life cycle greenhouse gas emissions, also done on a life cycle basis. But the major difference between the petroleum use and the greenhouse gas emissions are that for biofuels, they actually sequester some greenhouse gas emissions. They sequester carbon dioxide. So that's all taken into account. And then we also track the criteria pollutants. And now keep in mind that for the criteria pollutants, they're very sensitive to local conditions, local patterns, local mountain ranges nearby, and things like that. So it's a very rough estimate, but we are in line with A-Fleet and GREET, and that team over at Argonne is constantly making updates and incorporating new studies, and the Clean Cities Annual Metrics Report follows that. And so once we're tracking these three metrics, how do we use it? And we use it a few different ways. We have the national level report that wraps it all up to a Clean Cities programmatic level, and that is this report. You can see second from the left here, the Clean Cities Coalition's 2018 Activity Report is the most recent one. And then we can wrap it up at the regional level, and for both the regional level and actually every level, there's a Clean Cities Annual Report Query tool that I have on the right side of the slide here, and that allows us to immediately pull up the data sliced and diced a million different ways in Excel spreadsheets. So once it's up in a spreadsheet, we can slice and dice it a million different other ways. So it's just a very handy tool to really be able to dig into the data at multiple levels, clear from the national level down to the project level. And of course, this is helpful for the regional managers because they can pull up the data at a coalition level as well, and at a regional level as well. And as you know, and I hope you coordinators are using, you can bring up your own individual coalition reports that are automatically produced by the tool. So that's what I have a shot of here over on the left-hand side. And the idea of that is to help you not only track your own coalition's progress, but also to be able to show the progress to funders and supporters, to really give them an idea of what they're a part of and the good progress that you're making. And let's see, I'm having trouble bringing up the slide advancing button. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at some of this data that we've been looking at here. Oh, sorry. All right. So we at NREL, we love data, and so this is a fantastic source of data. So as I mentioned, we use it to produce the annual activity report, where we sum up the achievements of the program as a whole. It's used for coalition redesignations in that process. That's where we have numbers that can kind of verify your success as a coalition, and that comes in handy when getting redesignated. We help prepare briefings for DOE at multiple levels, and Congress occasionally, as they want to know how the program is doing. The Clean Cities data helps track goals both on a national level and at the local level, and we're hoping even the stakeholders have local goals, that specific goals that this reporting tool can help them track. Helps us track technology experts. A major feature of the Clean Cities program is to put you experts in the field, the various stakeholders and coordinators, help put you in touch with the other people that are perhaps having trouble administering that technology. And so it comes up all the time at NREL where there'll be a query, either through the hotline or into one of us NREL employees. There'll be a query on a problem, a technical problem that someone's having, and we can quickly look up what other coordinators have reported success with a specific technology through the annual metrics report. So it provides a really quick way for us to put you in touch with the right person. It helps us with market analysis on a kind of more broad level and a kind of a more academic level. It helps us answer questions such as, how are these technologies being used, under what conditions, how are they performing in the field? All great stuff for the technology manufacturers and producers to know. And we share it with outside analysts, mostly at other labs and universities. And of course, we don't share stakeholder level information. The most granular we'll share is at the coalition level for privacy reasons. So those are some of the uses that NREL, some of the ways that NREL uses the data that you report into the annual reporting tool. I'm having a little delay. There we go. Okay, so to provide examples of what I just talked through on the previous slide, I want to show you at the national level. Some of the things we look at are, on the right, you have just broad patterns, such as here, for example, the greenhouse gas reduction tracking. And you can tell from when the coalitions started in 1994, you can see we're having exponential growth up to 2018 in the overall greenhouse gases reduced. So this is a very powerful message to send the funders at DOE and Congress, and then so they know how successful the Clean Cities program is. And then on a market level, it provides insights to the different alternative fuel vehicles. And so the figure on the left you have here, you can see that you want to prioritize different fuels depending on what your goal is. So you can see that in 2018, if you look at the vehicle population, it was over a quarter E85 vehicles and almost a quarter plug-in electric vehicles, and then moving up through hybrid vehicles, biodiesels, they're becoming less populous. And so then if you want to prioritize your energy use impact or your life cycle petroleum reduction, you can see that CNG, which is that teal bar, are a very effective tool at reducing the petroleum use. And likewise, for biodiesel, you go over to the greenhouse gas emissions, the tons reduced, and biodiesel, despite being only 16% of the vehicles and 14% of the petroleum reduction, you can see that it's over a third of the greenhouse gas emissions tons reduced, and that's largely because the soy that biodiesel is produced from sequesters a lot of carbon dioxide. So if you look in the life cycle of biodiesel, it's a very good fuel for reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. And so let's continue on with some more national level data to show you some of the insights. You can the national level data helps us determine what some of the most effective idle reduction technologies are and what some of the most popular idle reduction technologies are. And you can see that in 2018, one of the most popular ones was the auxiliary power units, and they saved 14 million GGEs in 2018, which is almost twice as much as the runner-up, the engine automatic shutoff. So you can tell that, like, through a combination of the popularity and the effectiveness of the technologies, you can see that the APUs and the automatic engine shutoffs are some of the most useful tools out there being used in the marketplace. So you can see how this would be good information for decision makers to know, either at the fleet level or at a national level policymaker. Same with the fuel economy technology. How effective are these different technologies? And so what you see on the chart on the right here are the annual GGE saved per vehicle, and you can see that the top bar is kind of a catch-all for more efficient vehicle, but you can see the second bar down, the technology is a hydraulic hybrid, and you can see that those are very effective at reducing the petroleum used per vehicle. And then after that, you have the low rolling resistance tires, and cylinder deactivation are very powerful tools at reducing petroleum use through fuel economy. And so the previous charts that I've showed you are the technology already being used, how is it doing in the field, but we can also look into what is the interest in different technologies, and through that we can look at the outreach activities by technology type, and so that's kind of showing, it's kind of summing up what you coordinators throughout the nation view as the hot topics and what you're drawing the most crowds for. And so you can see in 2018, it was electric vehicles were the most popular outreach events, and then hybrid electric vehicles, after that natural gas vehicles. So hopefully that's an indicator of what's to come and what's being implemented the most rapidly and what has the most interest. After that, we have the fleet fuel matching. As you look at different fleets, what fuels are they the most interested in? What technologies are they using the most? And so you can see let's skip the general fleet far on the left because that's kind of a catch-all. But you can see the local governments are using a lot of AFVs, and you can see that the purple biodiesel vehicles are the most popular for local governments. For state governments, you can see that they have slightly more E85 vehicles than biodiesel vehicles. For corporate fleets, you can see that compressed natural gas vehicles are their vehicle of choice. For commuters, electric vehicles are their vehicle of choice. Utilities are using biodiesel the most. Federal government is using E85 vehicles the most. So it gives you an idea for which technologies are the most compatible with various fleets. Likewise, we can kind of assess what clean cities structures are doing the best on different metrics as well. And by structures, I mean your coalition type. Are you a nonprofit, a regional governing coalition, a government entity, things like that. So on the left of table 12 here, you have the coalition type. You can see the next column over the relative popularity of the coalition types, of which most of you are standalone nonprofits. You can see the average number of stakeholders by coalition type, in which the university coalitions have the largest number of stakeholders. The average funds raised, which you can see the city or county governments have access to the most funding. The average program impact in terms of gasoline gallons equivalent, that's more or less a tie between the standalone nonprofits and the government coalitions, government-hosted coalitions. And then the average persons reached in outreach events, you can see that the coalitions that are hosted in a nonprofit seem to reach the most number of people. And the reporting tool also helps you estimate what you don't know, and this is at all levels. Perhaps most importantly, at the stakeholder level. Some stakeholder fleets might have the goal of reducing their petroleum use or reducing their greenhouse gas emissions, but they might not have the data that they think they need to calculate it. And so we have, through a series of proxies and also default data, we allow great flexibility to take into account what the stakeholder does know and be able to estimate the energy use impact and the greenhouse gas emissions reduction. So of course we would prefer it if the stakeholder knew the quantity of alternative fuel use. That helps us just to be able to calculate directly everything we need from the quantity of alternative fuel use. However, if they don't track that, we can also estimate that through a number of defaults. If the stakeholder knows their average fuel economy and their vehicle miles traveled, then we can calculate it. And if they don't know one of those, we have some defaults of what they are likely to be based on the fleet and vehicle type. When estimating the energy use impact or the petroleum reduction, we're in line with the A-Fleet and GREET tools. And as I said, we can estimate it from the alternative fuel used. And we also have defaults for idle reduction. For example, how many hours a day the average, let's say, semi-truck idles, the average fuel economy for a school bus, and things like that enable us to figure out the energy use impact of various various fleet vehicles. And finally, the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions, which we calculate from alternative fuels used or from the defaults that I've mentioned before. And these calculations are also in agreement with A-Fleet and GREET tools. And that's all I have. So yeah, given that this is a recording, I'll skip over any questions and pass it on to Dave, or back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Caley, for that. We will pass it on to David. David, whenever you're ready, go ahead with the mouse.
Yep, thanks. Okay. All right, thanks, Caley, for that valuable information. Just so you know, Caley is one of our go-tos for all things annual report. And thanks to South Shore and Wisconsin Clean Cities for having me. So I'm David Kirschner with the Department of Energy's National Energy Technology Laboratory. We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a couple other locations, but anyways, I work in Pittsburgh. So here at NETO and DOE, I oversee a portfolio of transportation projects, which includes the work being done by regional Clean Cities coalitions. One of the major efforts that the Clean Cities coalitions undertake is the annual report, and that's what we're talking about today. So just a little background, I'm the regional manager for the North Central region. That North Central region is comprised of 12 states, and it has active coalitions in 10 of those. I'm going to go through them just so you know. They cover the state of North Dakota, Kansas City, Missouri, the state of Minnesota, Greater Lansing Area, Michigan, the state of Iowa, the state of Wisconsin. There's 2 coalitions that cover the state of Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, St. Louis, Missouri. We also have an apprentice coalition in Kansas, and the region includes Nebraska and South Dakota, but we don't have coalitions there currently. So let me move on. Here, okay. So first off, what is the annual report? Caley kind of got into this, so I apologize for a little bit of overlap, but I do have some points I want to make. The annual report is a great way to document your work and have it reported and recognized on a national level. There's a national version of the report which gets published, and then coalitions have access to their individual reports. In total, this was on slide 8 of Caley's presentation. There's 80 coalitions currently in the U.S. that are designated by DOE. The summary report covers activities and work with over, I had written down 12,000 stakeholders. I think the more accurate number in 2018 was actually almost 16,000. That's amazing. I think I'm having the same problem with the advancing that you did there, Caley.
It's a little sensitive, so just push once and it's good.
Okay. I think one more. I apologize for that. All right, so how's the report used? First off, the results from all of the reports are compiled, reviewed, and we kind of process them. NREL goes through the data and tries to work out any errors. We look at them. Caley mentioned that. The regional managers all look at these. There's 7 of us. And eventually the results are published. The results help to continue support funding for the National Clean Cities Initiative. We also use it to identify funding needs for related activities, funding projects, and even for tool development. Really the work that you guys are doing, and it helps to identify needs and gives us ideas for tools that we could come up with. I think some of the more recent tools that are being developed were like the idle box and telematics toolkit. And also the results are used to identify shifts in market and to aid in their development. So that was kind of like a general discussion on how it's used, but let me talk about why it's important to us, DOE. So coalition activities, their impact, and the energy used by fleets are all captured in this report. We use it as a tool. The annual report We've been using it for 25 years. It's long served an important role in the Vehicle Technologies Office. Really, the results in this report is a key indicator of our program's work. The information helps DOE understand the market, the alternative fuel market, and also niche markets where the greatest impacts are being made. It helps us to measure the bang for the buck. It helps us identify coalitions that are blazing new paths, working on new grant opportunities, gives us a sense of how much money really they're helping to secure in their area and where they're making breakthroughs. We recognize coalitions at a national level every single year at our national meeting. Clean Cities coalitions have been working towards a common goal to increase their energy use impact from previous years, as you saw in Caley's presentation, and we continue to see historic progress. This progress aids coalitions retaining support from both us and also its stakeholders, 15,000 of them. This work helps to support ongoing funding from Congress, which we see reflected in the federal budget. And we've seen, it seems like we get solid results. The report So this slide is just a quick look at metrics for 2018. So we had, and this is at a national level, we had over 4,000 new stations reported, energy use impact over 1 billion for the year, over 500,000 vehicles reported. Overall greenhouse gas reduction was up 19%. We had over 3,800 outreach activities across the 80 coalitions. They helped to secure $200 million of funding. And in total, coordinators spent 2,400 hours working on Clean Cities related efforts. All right, so let's take a quick look at some regional metrics. This is just going to give you a taste of the region's work, because if I was going to go over everything they did, it would take a very long time. So this is a look at the North Central region and also some national metrics for 2018. So going down the list here, you'll see I have all the fuels listed as well as electric. And I'm just going to jump down to the summary. In terms of new stations, the North Central region added almost 400 stations. At national level, they added 4,600. The North Central region reported 146,000 vehicles, and at national level, nearly 1 million. So you can see just how important the North Central region is to the overall metrics. And that's about it for me. I'm going to turn things over to Lorrie.
We'd like to thank Caley and David again for those wonderful presentations. It's great to hear how the reports make a difference at the national level. At the local level, the reports help Clean Cities coalitions learn what sustainable transportation methods our members and stakeholders are using, and helps us to shape our programming and to meet their needs. I would now like to go over the top 4 reasons our members and stakeholders should complete the annual report. This list was created by Wisconsin, Chicago area, Greater Lansing area, and South Shore Clean Cities. The first reason is organization results. Because the survey is completed annually, it's a great way to gauge your organization's success from year to year. The report can indicate the great work your organization is doing, while also identifying some operations you may be overlooking. The report can help you analyze your return on investment, fuel savings, greenhouse gas emission reductions, and the implementation of alternative fuel vehicles and technologies into your fleet. The second reason is coalition success. Caley and David both said you make a difference when completing the survey. This report helps us individual coalitions to gauge our local successes. The survey is also combined nationally to illustrate the success of the National Clean Cities program as a whole. The statistics derived from this report can help determine future funding opportunities and also have a significant impact on the funding of the national program. The annual report is one of the best ways to demonstrate our coalition's collective successes, not only to U.S. Department of Energy, but also to Congress. Elected officials send inquiries to the Department of Energy about the program and status of various clean fuels. Our reports help tell that local story and our successes. By completing the survey, you are making a difference in the Clean Cities program. The third reason is recognition, and who doesn't love recognition? Wisconsin, Chicago area, Greater Lansing, and South Shore Clean Cities love to recognize the successes of our members at our coalition events. We use the calculations from the annual reports to determine the award winners at our events. Wisconsin Clean Cities and South Shore Clean Cities recognize the fleets with the greatest amounts of petroleum displaced over the past year at their annual stakeholder meetings. This recognition is important to our members as it showcases their success while also promoting the success of the coalition at the state, regional, and national levels. And the fourth and final reason is grant readiness. Much of the information gathered with the surveys is the same information needed for grant applications to help fund your sustainable fleet and fueling projects. Compiling this information on an annual basis helps you to be more grant ready when funding opportunities arise. Grant program managers at the state and federal level tell us that all the time the best time to prepare for the grant application is before the request for proposals are released. Wisconsin Clean Cities has the Smart Fleet program and South Shore Clean Cities has the Green Fleet program, both of which use similar data to analyze stakeholders' individual fleets and make recommendations for vehicle and fuel additions, improvements, and adoptions. Each coalition has sent emails to their members, partners, and stakeholders with a link to complete their individual surveys. If you have yet to receive a survey, please reach out to your coalition's representative. Their contact information is featured on this slide. We have also provided links to each coalition's report that you can access as well. As a reminder, Chicago Area Clean City Survey is due back by February 14th. Wisconsin and South Shore Clean City surveys are due by March 2nd, and Greater Lansing Area Clean City Survey is due by March 5th. If you have any questions regarding the annual survey, please don't hesitate to contact our offices. I'd like to once again thank Caley and Dave for sharing information on the annual reporting process and how the reports are used to support the National Clean Cities program. We'd also like to thank our partners on this webinar series, Chicago Area Clean Cities, Greater Lansing Area Clean Cities, and South Shore Clean Cities. Lastly, we'd like to thank you for your time in listening to today's presentation and for the great work you do to support the Clean Cities mission. Have a great day, and thanks for joining us.